It's playoff time. Are you ready?
Gotten their revenge. Cape Cod League champions for their first time.
Because we're ready to defend our title.
And we're ready to take it.
Welcome to the 2023 Cape Cod League playoff.
8 teams.
1 champion.
Welcome to the 2023 Cape Cod Baseball League playoff preview powered by Dunkin'. I'm your host, Isabella Gescos, and we have a lot to unpack on today's show. From the east to the west, let's go to our analyst, Julia Foster, for more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm here at Gov Fuller Field with the West Division analyst, Brian Butler. Brian, how you doing today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing great. We're hitting playoffs here at the CCBL. Brian, I got to start by asking you, I would love to know your thoughts about the West this past season.
I think we've had a really strong West Division this year. The 2 top teams by points in the league, we got with Cotuit and Hyannis both in the West. And then, just Falmouth's been really good lately. Bourne's put together some really solid games. I think this playoff race is going to be, or playoff competition is going to be really strong.
And which team, in your opinion, has had the best defense so far this summer?
I think I'd probably go with Cotuit. They've been really strong all summer. But you also have to mention Bourne too. They've allowed the fewest runs in the league, and that's definitely got to be a sign of a strong defense and a strong pitching staff.
Which player from the West would you say has proven to be a crucial part of their team's success this season?
Well, we're here in Falmouth, and they've, come on really strong lately. And I think a big part of that, especially for a guy who had a bit of a rough start to the summer, is Walker Yannick, the catcher from Sam Houston State. I know he's been DHing a bit more recently, but he's a very strong defensive catcher, and his bat's really come around too. He started hitting for a bit more power. He's got 5 home runs now on the summer, hitting up around 270 now. I think he's been sort of a more quiet piece of a really strong recent stretch for Falmouth.
And are there any pitchers from the West that you feel have really stood out and made a difference this postseason?
The most obvious answer is Cameron Hill from Cotuit. He's been an absolute monster all year. He's only given up 4 earned runs in 33 innings pitched as of right now, struck out 45. He was really good last summer in the NECBL. He's been arguably even better this summer. So I wouldn't want to face him in any postseason context.
And there's so many hitters out here of the West who have really stood out. If you were a pitcher, which one would you be most scared to face?
Okay, the West does have some really strong bats. That's a good question. I think probably, especially right now, I'd go with Travis Bazana from Falmouth. He put together one of the single most impressive games I've ever witnessed this past week in that rout they had against Cotuit. It was a stat line that hadn't even occurred in the history of Major League Baseball since 1901. Could honestly argue it's one of the best games of baseball anyone's ever played. So I'd be terrified to face Travis Bazana. He's been turning it on, especially recently. He's been good all summer, but he's been even better lately.
So you got Bazana and you got Bender, one out of Falmouth, one out of Bourne. Those are some big names, to say the least. Who do you have leading them and their team in the playoffs?
I really think they're both going to be really big factors for their respective teams. Obviously, right now they're 1 and 2 in the batting race. Bazana's going to be trying today. He's going to be trying to make a run to get that title. Bender's going to try to hold on to it. I think, unfortunately, they don't get to face off in the first round because that'd be a really intriguing matchup to watch. But I think Bazana, especially, he's been really hot lately. But I think Bender's absolutely going to be a big factor in that series against Cotuit, too.
So moving to Cotuit, as you said, we got Cole Mathis, who's proven to be a crucial piece to the puzzle for the Cotuit Kettleers. What do you believe he needs to continue to do to lead Cotuit to the championship? And then what do you expect on the mound for him?
Well, I mean, I think the big thing he needs to do to really help out the team is just keep hitting the way he's been hitting lately. Him and Hunter Hines from YD have been going back and forth the past couple days trying to vie for the home run title and the RBI title. I think as it stands, Mathis is one behind, but it feels like for the past couple days, just every time Mathis hits one, Hines hits one too. So clearly they both want that. But I think, really just keep hitting the ball hard, putting it, where they can't get to it. But I know on the mound, especially lately, he's sort of had a bit more of a struggle. He has struggled a bit against Bourne this summer. I believe he's only 1 for 12, but that one hit was a triple. So I think, just keep hitting the ball well. I don't know what the situation with him pitching is going to be, because obviously it's, you want to have him at the best of his ability wherever he is. But if he does come in, he's been pretty shut down out of the pen for the most part this summer. Just making sure you utilize him to the best of his abilities, because he's obviously a very important player for Cotuit.
And final question for you, Brian. I put you in the hot seat this entire time, but I want to hear which 2 teams do you believe are going to make it to the championship round?
Oh, this is going to be a tough one. A lot of really good teams this year. I feel like I'm going to start with the East, actually, and I'm going to go with Orleans. I think, they're called the Firebirds. They've been on fire lately. They just took the top spot in the East Division. They're going to try to hold on to it tonight, see if they can get that 1 seed. And out of the West, that's really tough. Both of those matchups are really going to be really interesting, especially in the first round. I think I'm going to go with Falmouth, honestly, out of the West. They've been playing really well. They've only lost once since the All-Star break, I believe. They've put up the best run differential in the league, and they've gotten hot at the right time, and sometimes that's all that matters. So I think those are the 2 I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Orleans, and I'm going to go with Falmouth.
You heard it here, folks. Brian, thank you so much for sitting here with me at Gov Fuller Field, talking some West Division playoffs. You got Bourne taking on Cotuit, and you got Falmouth taking on Hyannis. We'll have all the coverage here. Don't you worry, folks. We'll send it back to you, Bella. Thanks.
Thank you, Julia and Brian. Now let's reshift our focus to the East with our reporter, Grace Newell.
Thanks, Bella. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Red Wilson Field. I'm Grace Newell alongside our East Division analyst, Daniel Curran. So, Daniel, I would love to get your thoughts on the East Division so far this season.
Well, Grace, the East has been just so much fun to watch from top to bottom all year round, and to have it come down to the last day at who wins the division has just been super exciting. YD took it yesterday with a win over Wareham, and also they got some help from Chatham as they beat Orleans 14-12. But, to see it come down to the last day, and YD was so consistent all year round. Orleans, they only finished 1 point behind YD, but they kind of went on a run for the, at the end of the season to kind of catch them there. And then obviously Harwich and Brewster as well are in the mix, and it's just super exciting. I think all 4 of them are going to be a lot of fun to watch come playoff time tomorrow.
Yeah, so which team has demonstrated to have the best defense in the field this year?
To compare all 4 of these teams' defense is pretty tough because they're actually all pretty similar when you look at it from a numbers perspective. Harwich and YD both lead the East with a .969 fielding percentage, and Orleans is last among the playoff teams with a .965, which is only .04 behind. So, all of them are so similar statistically speaking, so it's hard to really have one that stands out. But I'd like to talk about Harwich's defense for a second because I think one could make the case that defense has been the biggest strength for Harwich throughout the year. They have a .969 fielding percentage that leads or tied for the lead in the East, and everywhere you look, they're just so consistent. 93% of their defensive innings this year came from guys with at least a .970 fielding percentage, and the number for the entire league this year was .968. So that's 93% of the time you're putting at the very least an average fielder out there, and at most points an above average fielder. You look at the top defensive positions for them. Ethan Anderson at catcher and first base, he hasn't made an error in 164 innings played this year. Devin Obie has only made 1 in 270 innings, and Ali Camarillo at shortstop, he's only made 4 in 306 innings. So that's an outfielder, a catcher / first baseman, and a shortstop, 3 of the top defensive positions on the diamond, and they've been rock solid all year round at those places, and I think that's one of the many reasons why Harwich has been so solid defensively and probably the best defensive team in the East.
So speaking on some individuals, which player has been leading the East that has just been a surprise to you?
Yeah, the guy that I'm going to talk about is who I think has been the most underrated bat, maybe on the Cape all summer, and that's Matt Hallback from the Orleans Firebirds. He's out of UC San Diego. And when you look at his numbers, he's been one of the best hitters on the Cape. His batting average ranked fourth on the Cape at 364. His on-base percentage of 455 ranked third, and his slugging percentage at 512 ranked seventh. And he was also just one of 5 Cape Leaguers this summer to have a qualifying season with a 300 batting average, a 400 on-base percentage, and a 500 slugging. The other 4 to do it were Cam Smith, Travis Bazzana, Joe Oyama, and Derek Bender. And all 4 of those guys were elite bats throughout the summer. You know their names. Matt Hallback, if you put his numbers with them, he's right up there with them. I think no matter which way you put it, Matt Hallback has been a top 10, maybe even top 5 hitter on the Cape this summer. I don't think he's got the recognition he deserves, but he's certainly been one of the best bats. And also one thing that's cool about him, he and Joe Oyama, who of course have been leading the Orleans offense all year, actually both played summer ball together last year in the West Coast League, and they became friends there, and they've joined forces again, and they're looking to lead Orleans to a title.
It's really cool when we see players playing multiple summers together and just kind of building a bond and building a way that they play together. Aside from the offense, are there any pitchers from the East that you just feel have really stood out and could make a difference in the postseason?
Yeah, I'm going to look at Finnegan Wall from YD. He's a native of Dennis, Massachusetts, so he's actually been pitching for his hometown team this summer, which is a cool story. And not only has he been pitching for them, but he's been doing extremely well. Over the last 30 days, he has a 2.05 ERA, and he also has a 169 batting average against him, and that is actually the best in the East over the last 30 days. Also in that span, he has a .86 whip. That is the second best on the Cape, the best in the East. And overall this season, he's also just been a solid pitcher. He's struck out 38 batters in 34 innings pitched and only allowed 23 hits. That gives him 6.1 hits per 9, 10.1 strikeouts per 9, and his strikeouts overall this season is the second most in the East. So he's been one of the best consistent pitchers all year, but he's also really been killing it in the last month. So that's Finnegan Wall of YD.
He's definitely been that sneaky name that comes out to you. You know, you don't hear his name a ton, but he's got the stats to back him up, and he's just been sneaky all year.
Yes.
So there are so many hitters out of the East who have just done so much damage at the plate. If you were a pitcher, who would you be most scared to face?
Yeah, there are certainly a lot of options, but I think the answer here has to be Joe Oyama from Orleans. He's out of UC Irvine, a native of Okinawa, Japan, and he came over from Japan at age 18, not knowing any English, and in pursuit of baseball, and it's worked out for him. And I mean, yeah, he's the most complete hitter I think that we've seen on the Cape all summer. He finished the year with a 360 batting average and also a 1069 OPS. That was the league leading OPS. He had 22 extra base hits this summer between 11 doubles, 6 triples, and 5 home runs. All 5 of those home runs, by the way, they came in the same week. Between it was before and after the All-Star game, all came within a week span. So he went on a bit of a power surge. So he's capable of, taking the ball out of the yard. He's only 5'7", obviously not the biggest guy in the field, but, you can't let that fool you because he is very much capable of hitting for power. He also takes a lot of walks because he has a small strike zone. He's very quick. He's stolen 6 bases this year. So, there's not really any aspect of offense that Joe Oyama hasn't excelled in this summer, and for that reason, I think he should be the most feared hitter in the East.
I agree. That's a really good take. Now, some names we've been mentioning over the past couple minutes: Hines, Tibbs, Oyama. They're some of the biggest names in the East right now, and honestly, throughout the whole season. Who do you have leading the East for the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the sneaky answer, one of the dark horse picks here. I'm going to go look at James Tibbs from the Brewster Whitecaps. We've obviously seen this so far this season that he's capable of coming through in big moments. We saw him win the home run hitting contest in Harwich with guys like Hunter Hines that were in that mix. So, he's capable of kind of taking over, and I think he's really the centerpiece of that Brewster offense. He has been for most of this season. He finished with a 303 batting average and 862 OPS. And, I think he's going to be a big X factor against YD where, if he goes, the rest of the offense is going to go. And if he doesn't, then it's going to be tough for them. But James Tibbs, I think, is going to be a guy that is capable of just taking over an entire series and bringing his team along with him.
I think going back to the home run hitting contest, when we watched him in that, it's obviously he was voted in. He was a contender for it. But against, those other names, Brody Donne and Hunter Hines, he wasn't exactly the number 1 pick to win it, and he did. He ran away with it.
Yes, he absolutely did. He put on a show.
Now back to, another name, Hunter Hines, we've mentioned before. He's just proven to be a crucial piece to the Red Sox lineup. What do you believe that he needs to do to continue to lead YD to a championship? What do you expect at the plate from him?
Yeah, I mean, I think he just has to be the same leader that he has been all year, and he's certainly going to have to step up now in the playoffs. Some of the guys that have been there all season, guys like Enzo Apodaca, guys like RJ Austin, both of them left recently, so he's one of the few guys left on the team that's been there for the whole season, and, I think he's kind of taken a natural leadership role because of that, not just in the clubhouse, but, on the field, he's certainly, like I said, the centerpiece of that YD offense. Obviously, 13 home runs this season, led the Cape League, and, there was some worries about him cooling down kind of heading into the All-Star break. He hit 9 home runs pretty quickly. Took a while to hit number 10, but ever since then, he's gone back on that surge. Ever since the All-Star break, his batting average has gone from 252 back up to 265. His OPS has gone from 886 back up to 925. He's hit 3 more home runs since the break. So, he's kind of climbing back to where he was at the peak of his season, and I think if he continues to do that, then this YD offense is going to be very dangerous in August.
Now, final question. I want to hear, which 2 teams do you have in the championship for the 2023 season?
I'm going to ride the hot hands. I'm going to go with the Falmouth Commodores out of the West, and I'm going to go with the Orleans Firebirds out of the East, the number 3 seed, the number 2 seed. And Falmouth, they started out 3-10-2 this season, and ever since then, they've gone 21-8. Has to be the best record on the Cape at that point, or since that span. And with Orleans, they started out 2-6. Ever since then, they're 22-14, I believe. So, you might look at the overall records this season and think, well, YD might be better, and, Katuitt and Hyannis might be better. But, if I'm looking at a smaller sample size that I think could more accurately describe the talent of these teams, the hot hands are Orleans and Falmouth, so that's what I'm going to run with going into these playoffs.
Well, Daniel, thank you. I'm Grace Newell alongside Daniel Krant.
Thanks, Grace and Daniel. Now let's take a look at this playoff bracket. In the West, we have Bourne versus Katuitt and Falmouth versus Hyannis. And in the East, Orleans and Harwich and YD and Brewster. Now, I'm no analyst, but there are some intriguing storylines to watch. Can the Bourne Braves repeat as 2023 champions? Falmouth and Orleans were hot at the end of the regular season. Can they maintain that through the postseason and possibly meet in the finals? I don't know, but you got to watch the playoffs to find out. And don't worry, don't go anywhere. I'll be here the entire postseason to recap it for you all. Thank you so much for watching the 2023 Cape Cod Baseball League playoff preview powered by Dunkin'. I'm your host, Isabella Geskos, and I will see you next time.